Hello, everyone. Welcome to another, actually, this is the second episode in the amateur MMA fighter interview series. It's Ben Cohn, the head of the grappling department for the Fight Sites, and joining me today it's a special guest for me. We've got the most kind, humble, and nice person that you'll meet off the mats. The second that bell rings, good luck and hope you don't die. Undefeated mixed martial arts competitor, Ardis Smith, my friend, who beat the shit out of me multiple times in training. My friend, how are you? How you been? What's been going on? It's been a minute.
Hey, my brother, man. That was a great that gassed me up a lot more than I needed, but that was great. I'm good, man. I feel good. Just adjusting to working a job and training now, but I actually think it's better for me because I have like more time to just focus on training. When I'm there, like it's just more focused. But besides that, I'm good, man. I feel good. Just enjoying the summer. And yeah, that's really it, man. Just chilling.
That's the way it should be. Hey everyone, just wanted to remind you all to take a moment to like the video, leave a comment. It really does help us out with the algorithm. If you'd like to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification, which will give you updates on when new content is posted. If you want to support the site, you could check out our Patreon. You'll get access to exclusive content, access to the Discord, and much more. And now, back to the video. So the way I always like to conduct my interviews is I like to know a little bit about the background, right? You know, everyone can see certain things on Instagram and this and that, but how did you get into mixed martial arts in the first place? What led you to the fantastic gym that we know you train at, which we'll get to? Tell us your story. Tell us a little bit more about you. Like, what makes you you?
Yeah, no, I love that. So I think just even when I was a kid, I've always just loved martial arts. Like I love the Bruce Lee movies. I loved all those movies when I was a kid. But honestly, I think the first movie that got me into martial arts was the first Blade movie with Wesley Snipes.
Oh, I love that movie. Who doesn't, to be honest?
I was super young, seeing this black dude with a sword just swinging and slicing vampires, dude, it just fascinated me. And I was like, yo, I could be that. I could be like Blade. So I remember just being like immediately lightsaber in hand, moving the sword around. And I just loved it. Like I loved it. And it never, I don't know, after that movie, it just never went away. I would watch Bruce Lee movies. Then in middle school, I would see the UFC started to get popular. Then I started playing Street Fighter. And then I was like, it just kept going. It's actually funny because there's people who grew up with me that after my first fight, they were like, wow, they literally were like, Ardis, you've been talking about fighting since you've been a kid and you actually went and did it. They're like, you know how many people say they're going to do something and they just don't do it? I'm like, dude, I really like fighting. Like, it's not something that's just going to go away. Like, even if a doctor said tomorrow, you couldn't fight, I would still be in the gym because I just love seeing people fight. So I've always liked it because of that reason. That was one reason. I think another reason for me was I always wanted to be a lot stronger of a person because of just bullying. I went through a lot of, growing up, I went through a lot of seeing my father beat on my mother. I wanted to be a stronger person for that. I always thought in my head, I'm like, if I could learn to defend my mom, this could be something I could use one day. So those things stuck in my mind. But besides the trauma aspect, I just always liked the movement. And I just thought it was fascinating to see martial arts like that. So it still is. It's even more now since I got older. So I've just loved it since I've been a kid.
But MMA is not how you started. Your first martial art that you trained in was not MMA. So talk to us about your martial arts background prior to getting to MMA, because if I'm not mistaken, you did wrestle as well, correct?
Yeah. So actually, even before that, I did I don't even know exactly what it's called, but I did Japanese jiu-jitsu even before playing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there were any Japanese jiu-jitsu schools in the entire country, let alone.
it was in the little corner by my house. There was a gi on. There was There was like wrist locks, a lot of, it was all I remember,
shit.
a lot of wrist locks. And I don't think it wasn't very like efficient fighting, but the sensei was really cool. I'm still cool with him. And I never forget, he said this to me. He would talk or whatever, and he'd be like, what do you guys think? I'm like, well, I'm going to listen to you because you're my sensei. And he said, you should never listen to me just because I'm your sensei. You should always do your own research. And as I was a kid, I thought in my head, I'm like, huh, that stuck in my mind for so long. Like a lot of the mental aspects of the training, like stuck with me. And then after that, I started to wrestle, which was another mental battle for sure. That is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is wrestling, and still is the hardest thing ever that I've ever done. It was I don't think I could go back to it. Like it was so I got into wrestling because at the time, I think high school, I was looking, I'm like, all right, what can I do to get into some type of fighting? I have to get into something. So literally just Googling, I'm like, what can I do to get into MMA? And literally, like, I think it might still be up there in Google, but it was just like, if you can't afford a gym, join your high school wrestling team. And I was like, okay. And they're like, it's free. And they're like, wrestling is going to be one of the biggest things in MMA. You're going to need to know how to do it. So I was like, at this point in time, I didn't like grappling. So I was like, I don't really like wrestling. I'm only going to do it because I'm going to be an MMA fighter. I'm going to stand and bang. And that's, my stupid kid mindset. So I was like, oh, that stuff is whack. I don't want to grapple with anyone. So then I start wrestling or whatever. Immediately, I fell in love with the sport. Then I was like, my mind went from MMA to I have to be a state champ, that was not going to happen. I started way too late, but I loved wrestling for what it was. It was hard. It was grueling, but it was just it was a really huge mental challenge, and it kept me out of trouble, right. Out of trouble, gave me something to do after school. The coach, I'm like cool with him still. He's pretty much like my dad. I tell him Happy Father's Day every year. So it just gave me a whole slew of family, besides just the training aspect. But yeah, I started wrestling when I was, my first official season was 10th grade, but I started wrestling at the end of like 9th grade year, like lifting and doing like tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, wrestling was no joke at all.
Kind of glad I didn't have the option to do wrestling because I might not have been able to go through it. I'm glad I started with jiu-jitsu where I can lay on my back and chill.
chill. But your jiu-jitsu is good though. Don't play.
I'll try. Let's fast forward to you in the gym, because you started Japanese jiu-jitsu, which is not something I expected to hear. So I'm learning something. You went to wrestling, and then after high school, college, and whatever it might have been, you ended up at Zach's gym. What brought you? When did you start MMA, and how did you end up at Zach's gym?
So before I went off to college, what was I, maybe 18? Before I went off to college, I had been looking up like gyms in the area. So Finishers MMA popped up, and I was like, wow. So I was like 18. It was like maybe 2 months before I had to go to college. I tried the classes. I really, really liked it. But then I went off to college, and I was like, all right, well, there's no gyms up here. Had to do college stuff. Didn't really have the best time in college. I left there. I came back, and like, I felt like at one point, so I was like doing a lot of waitressing, and that sucked. I was just sucking the life out of me. And every day I would be like, man, I feel like I'm getting further and further away from like being a fighter. Like I'm just like serving now. People are telling me I'm a piece of shit for like a $5 tip. I'm like, this is not like worth it. So it was like maybe years after I wasn't consistent at this point in time. Like I was like in my 20s. I go like once out of the month, and then I wouldn't keep going. And I had so much, like I just have a lot of anxiety. So then I wouldn't go. And then I'm like, oh, you're never going to get to it. And then what made me really go to the gym was one day I was just looking at my life. I was like maybe 23 or 24. And I was like, are you going to do this or are you not going to do this? I'm like, either you're going to fucking do this or just just be a server then and shut up and don't talk about it. One day, me and my boy Jamie, we just like was like, yo, let's just do a kickboxing bout. We didn't even have anyone coaching us. We just woke up at 6 a.m. every day, hit mitts, and we were like, fuck it, let's see what happens. We went to our fight. I won my fight. He had a close fight. And after that feeling of winning, I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to do. And now I'm not going to make excuses. And then after, I was just like in the gym, consistent all the time, like making time for it. And like, I knew that I had to get rid of this serving life, because trying to serve at a restaurant, it's just not flexible for a fighter. Like, dude, your mom could die and they're like, hey, but you have someone covering your shift. Like, it was terrible. Like, and it's all over. And the people knew too. Like, my manager was like, yeah, after the fight, he doesn't want to be here anymore. And I didn't. I was like, I want to fight, and I want a job that supports me being able to train every day. So after that, I left there. I started working at other jobs that allowed me to be there at the gym every day. I started trying to make it work. Zach Makovsky was super, super cool to me. Like, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. So he was like, if you teach kids classes, I won't even let you pay. How about you just help me with the kids class? You can come to the gym for free. And then just being there all the time, doing the kickboxing, doing the jiu-jitsu. And just like, after a while, the anxiety went away because everyone felt like family to me. So I was just there consistent. And yeah, I had always had my eyes on that gym when I was 18, but it took maybe 5 years before I had the courage to like, this is what I want to really do. I'm going to stick with it. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. But I need to at least do it once before I can just give up on it and say, I want to do something else. But ever since then, I've just been doing it. I've been just consistent with it. I love that gym. It's gotten even better over the years. It's the people there are just, it was already a good gym when I was there, when I first went when I was young, you know, but like now there's just so many people that know it's a good gym that it's just like fighters, jiu-jitsu people, kickboxers are going there, and it's like insane. Like it's actually insane to see where it was at almost 10 years ago, you know?
I want to actually focus on really quickly, because you actually brought up your anxiety. And I know you've talked a little bit about your, mental health struggles, and it's something that not enough fighters, I feel like, talk about, although it is starting to become a lot more destigmatized. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Something that I talk about all the time. And I think it's something that's not even just for mixed martial artists, just for men in general. It's just not talked about. There's not a lot of avenues for men to feel comfortable about it. And I feel that there's so many men that some of their favorite, celebrities, artists really go through it, but they don't talk about it. So in their mind, they're just like, well, my favorite fighter doesn't go through it, so why am I complaining? But it's something that it's so prevalent. And yeah, I've always dealt with mental health problems since I was a kid. It stemmed definitely from seeing the abuse and going through abuse as a kid. And, that's actually the biggest reason why I left college. My mental health was just so declined, and it really pretty much leading to a suicide attempt. If it wasn't for my best friend who just like knew me so well, I was going to take my life, and it's always something that's just been, I've had those suicidal thoughts since I've been maybe in the 5th grade. So it's like always something that's been with me. Recently I had found out I live with a personality disorder, which made a lot of sense growing up. And it just put a new lens on my life, because so many things in your life, I think a lot of people put so much blame on themselves. They put so much like shame, like I couldn't believe I did this, or I can't believe I can't do this. And then when you have a therapist or a psychiatrist tell you like, hey, do you know that your brain works like this? And this is how your brain's seeing life, and this type of traumatized view or whatever view, it just takes off so much of that shame, because now you're like, oh, it makes sense why I couldn't go to the gym. Oh, it makes sense why I was beating myself up every day with my words, or why I had these suicidal thoughts. And then you can start to heal yourself from there. So like, I'm not embarrassed about talking about it at all. It was a big part of the journey. And even after I won, that was really why I was winning, for myself. And I think my mental my mental illness for so many years told me I was a coward because I didn't fight. And I've seen all these people fight. And I'm like, dude, people say you're good. Why aren't you fighting? And I had that anxiety in my mind. I had all those doubts. But once I fought, it was like just beating that. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about the win or loss at all. Like, I still don't. Like, my mind was just about beating that voice in my head that says I can't do something. And I felt like it was like 27 years of just beating that voice once. And I feel super confident and grateful for the support system I have around me, because it's hard, to be going through some type of illness without that. But I have finishers. I have my close friends I grew up with that they know me really well. I have the people at Finishers are awesome to me. But yeah, it's being a fighter with some type of mental illness, or just like not knowing how to navigate your mental health, is super hard. And I feel like people, even without a mental illness, should be going into therapy. I think it's so helpful, and it takes off so much stress just to unwind. It is really more prevalent than people think. And it's something that, as a fighter, I have to put my mental health first. And when I do, I feel like my training and everything's so much better. And that's something I'm doing a lot different now compared to when I was a kid back then.
Well, I think anybody listening to this would probably come off with the impression that you're a very thoughtful, considerate, kind person. I mean, I know you. I as well as I know you, that's exactly how I view you. And it's interesting because that's who you are. But then I want to talk about in the gym, how you spar, how you train. And it's very interesting to watch you in training mode. The best way I can describe you is you're hungry and you want to eat. And I mean that in the best possible way. Like you want to, you said yourself, you want to stand and bang. That's how you always wanted to fight, kind of like you wanted to be that guy. And you are, but I never feel like you're doing it in a dumb way, is the best way I could put it. Can you talk a little bit about how you developed your style? Because I've sparred with you, and I'm going to give my side of it after you talk, because it's really, really interesting. And it's always fun sparring you. I always feel safe, but I always feel scared at the same time. So take it away, please.
Yeah, that's a great question. I always had in my mind, it's so funny. It might be a little bit dark, but I'm okay with sharing it. In my mind, I had, especially with my mental things going on, I always thought, I'm like, I want people, when they spar me or fight me, I want people to feel on edge. I want them to feel, no matter what they do, they're in an endless vortex of techniques and aggression coming at them, that they don't know where to go. Because my mind was like, if I'm going to feel this every day when I wake up, someone else is going to feel this. I'm going to inflict this mental anguish on someone else. So that was really my thought process on it. I don't know if now I do try to consciously put it in my game, but I do think subconsciously my mind made me fight like that, because I never noticed I fought like that until actually Zach Makovsky told me. He's like, do you know when you fight people, they're like scared of you? And I was like, no, I don't really notice that. And he was like, see how people are when you go at them. And after I was like, I never noticed. I truly never noticed until he said it. But that was always something I had in my mind. I was always like, I'm going to take someone into the darkest part of their mind, and I want them to crumble inside their own mind. I'm going to throw these techniques at them, and I want them to feel on edge, because in my mind, it's like, I know how to feel on edge all the time. It doesn't bother me being taken to that. I'm like, but I want to see how people respond when they're taken there. And I've noticed a lot of people don't like it. So I guess I just keep doing it. It just came together. I think it just came together.
I don't like it. It sucks. It's scary. It's terrifying. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know if it came together subconsciously. I don't know for sure. But that is always a thought I had in my mind. I've always wanted people to feel on edge when they're sparring me. Like, if I'm focused, obviously when I'm playing around, it's like, whatever. But if I'm like going against someone that I'm like, oh, this person's good, and I put on my game face, I want them to feel like, oh my God, no matter what I do, this guy, he's going to be here and he's game this whole time. I have to kill him, Like, can I do it? I want them to doubt themselves the whole time. So that's my whole game. Like, just doubt yourself. I want to put that pressure on you. I want to give you the way out, and I want you to take it. So me and you know that you took it, but only me and you know in that fighter mind that we're sharing in that space, we both know. And then that makes it worse for you, So it's like, that's pretty much what I try to base my style off of.
So the two stories that I want to share, one of them was, this is one of the first times we sparred, because the first time we sparred was boxing only. I remember that. And he came over to me and said, "You're a really annoying jab." Next time we sparred was MMA. And we were going at it. You were obviously pressuring, and I was obviously running for my dear life. And you got me up against the wall, and you had double underhooks. And I got like, okay, maybe he won't take me down because he wants to punch me. And I clinched with him, so he wants to hit me and separate, probably, right? You pulled in my hips. You freaking sweep my legs out. I land on the mat. I'm like, oh, and you just whisper in my ear, "Come on, Ben, I thought you were a grappler. Let's go." And after you fucking blast me off my feet, after beating the fuck out of me on the feet, you take me down and then whisper in my ear, like, "Come on, what are you, a bitch?" Basically. You were, and I remember why. You explained to me afterwards, you're like, you were resting and you're preparing for a fight, and you shouldn't be resting in training. And you were like, and after that, I never did that again. Like, that was,
no, never.
Like, you changed me. There was another time where we were only allowed to box in close range. And that was the one range I really didn't want to be with you. And it was 3 minutes. And the entire time, no matter what I landed, no matter what I threw, no matter what I did, every time I did it, you would put your gloves like this. You would then separate and go. I went through that whole 3-minute round. I took my licking. I took every shot. And I think at the end, I started going to you again at the end. and at the end, we actually just traded punches for like 5-6 seconds. You landed more. And that round was the last spar before my fight. And it was that spar that made me feel confident enough to actually go through with the fight, because I was terrified. But it worked out. I made it through. And by the middle of the fight, like, I was like, yeah, nothing this guy's going to do to me is worse than what I was dealing with in the gym. So 2 stories to show just what you were explaining. I definitely want to talk a little bit about Zach's program and learning from Zach and training with Zach, because like you said, the gym is growing. You guys are getting a little bit more notoriety, and by little, I mean a lot, because you guys keep winning. You guys keep winning your fights. Talk about, how it's been since Zach started working with the program and kind of running things, and also his instruction, give a little bit of insight into that. And kind of like, you guys get a lot of wrestlers showing up. Talk to me about the training situation as it stands now.
Ooh, that's a great question. With Makovsky, he is just the way he fights. You can see in his training, he's just so intellectual when it comes to fighting, to the point. Before I met Zach and Ricky, because Ricky helps out a lot too. So shout out to Ricky Nuno. Before I met Zach, I was so super nervous about getting in there. And because from wrestling, wrestling was about, who's the biggest dog out there? Show me your heart. And it's a fight. It doesn't matter. You're going out there and you're scrapping. But then, when Zach started running the program, which is a funny story I have to add in, because I told Zach this and we laughed about it. I did not like Zach when I first met him at all.
Okay. Let me hear this.
I didn't. So when I think he was coming down from Canada. I think he was doing he would just do the jiu-jitsu there a little bit. And I would ask him questions, because I was like, oh, this guy's high level. And I'd ask him questions. And, Zach is he is almost like an AI with the way he talks. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't know, if you didn't know him, you wouldn't know that he's joking with you. And I'm very sensitive. So he would poke at me and laugh at some of the questions I'd say. And he'd move his head. And that's what I used to do a lot. I used to just move my head a lot. And I remember I was I squinted a little bit, and then I was like, and And I remember I told my kickboxing coach, I was like, I'll never ask that fucking guy for advice ever again. And Joe was like, he's high level. It was so funny. He was like, he's high level though. He's like, Ardis, that's what you're going to need. I was like, nah, he's a pompous asshole and I'll never talk to him again. Then years later, he comes back. He's officially there as a coach, right? I'm kind of skeptical. I'm like, I didn't really like this guy. But then I see him and he does the same type of jokes again. And then I realize, I go, oh, Zach's just not funny. This is how he jokes with people. He just thinks he's funny, but he's not funny. And then I realized, like, oh, he's a great guy. He just jokes like this with dry humor. So then it made me realize, oh, okay. Then we talk all the time. I love Zach. It was more my sensitivity than it was his dry humor, for sure. So I had to add that in. So boom.
That's great.
His training method is just so smart. Like before I went into my fight, I've never competed and felt so comfortable in front of someone. Like in my MMA fight, I felt so comfortable. I wasn't even nervous. It was like a complete focus, but it wasn't nervousness. And because Zach just goes over positions that you're going to be in. He goes over them. He goes over the most common positions. He goes over the most common mistakes. And he tells you why something is a mistake. He tells you why something works. He tells you what someone wants to do to you, if they're more of a wrestler base, what people are looking for as a striker base. What's awesome about Zach is he doesn't try to make you him though. You know, he gives you these tools and he's like, well, you know, Ardis, you like to bang a little bit more. I like to bang. How are you going to use this tool? And it's like super cool. With all these different fighters, he looks, he analyzes, and he's like, all right, that tool might not work for you, but it's something that you should know how to do it. You know, like there's just certain things that he lets you go, all right, you should know how to do this. You should know how to wrestle. You should know how to get off your back. Why do I like to do this? But once you know how to do this, you can break that mold. You can be a guy on your back if your jiu-jitsu is that good enough. He doesn't say you can't do these certain things, but just going in class, it's just insane because you see him fight, you see him do all those things, which is freaking awesome. And then he teaches all that in class all the time. He just breaks it down like methodically all the time to the point where you can't forget it. You know, like you're in a position, your body's just doing it naturally. So I've never really had coaches that really, Finishers MMA has all great coaches like this, but I've never had coaches actually break down positions. You know, everything was just like a fight, which made things more nervous because it's like, oh, it's just chaos. It's like, oh my God, maybe this guy's tougher than me and he's going to hit me harder. But then when you hear these guys talk, it's like, dude, it's like, that's not what fighting's about. There's just so much positioning, so much feinting, so much movement, so much analyzing that it's like, it really is who can train smarter and fight smarter. And it just takes away so much of that fear because you realize like, if I'm the smarter fighter, I can get out of this with minimal damage and just minimal effort, which is what you want in your fights. The training it's phenomenal. And even if Zach moved to another gym, something I'm always going to take from him is that smart intellectual training. Like something that people don't even think about is like why you do what you do. It's like it's so crazy. He's so philosophical, even in his like day-to-day life, but he takes it with him to training. And it makes you think about like, why am I doing what I do? Am I just doing it because it just feels good? Why am I throwing that punch? Why am I throwing this takedown? And if I don't have a good reason, I should get rid of these tools then. I should sharpen what I have. And it's like, it's awesome. All the coaches there, Joel, Mike, Ricky, my jiu-jitsu coaches, all of them are super awesome. And they all are very thoughtful in their process of training. So it's just good training there. And but Zach's he's really brought the MMA program really far just within the year of him being there. So it's exciting to train with him.
Yeah, I'm glad he's there too, because you guys are pretty, you're close enough that I can head out there whenever I have some free night on Thursday nights for some good old sparring.
Yeah.
Well, with that, tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram if they want to follow you, show you some love and support, follow your career, obviously. Instagram, Twitter, whatever social medias you use. What was yours?
Yeah, find me on Martial Ardis 610. You know, it's just like my name. I've had that since the MySpace days. So Martial Ardis 610. I post all my fight news on there. I post mental health stuff on there. Funny stuff, memes, whatever you want. It's all on there. Give me a follow.
Memes, actually.
Give me a follow. Hit me up. Yeah.
Listen, by the way, that's Martial Ardis, Ardis, not artist, because I feel like people will definitely type that in wrong. And his link will be below when this interview goes up. Don't worry about that. It was a pleasure, bro. I can't wait to see you again. I can't wait to be hit. Well, I could probably wait to be hit by you again, but I'm gonna have to be. You know, it is what it is. That's how it goes. My friend, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see your career progress. I know you're going to be great regardless of what you do.
Thank you, Ben. For real. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Always.